1, 2, 3.
Yes, it's the Late Late Breakfast Show with your host, Bernie J. Mitchell.
Are you in?
Are you in?
So we are back here at Work Hubs for episode number 2 of How to Market a Co-working.
Whoa!
There we go. Sorry about
that was seamless, Bernie. We've gone from conversation straight into recording the podcast. You are a pro.
It's my game face. So you remember, listener, we were doing I can never say it. I've always really struggled with is it acronyms? Acronyms, yeah. So we've done situation, objectives and strategy, and now we're doing tactics, action and control.
That's it. So we're on the SOSTAC framework.
I could remind people what it is.
So SOSTAC is a marketing planning framework created by a guy called P.R. Smith, and it's basically a really nice way for companies of any shape and size to start to think about how they can turn their marketing from, we do print ads because the salesman calls me, into something a little bit more strategic that supports you in achieving your business goals. Mm-hmm. And so SOSTAC is situation, objective, strategy, tactics, action and control. And as you rightly said, last time we were talking about the situation, objectives and strategy of Bernie and Andy's co-working space. I forget where that was. I think it was in Peckham.
It was in
Peckham, New York and Paris, something like that.
We at the end, we left Peckham because it didn't have quite the... I think you said it's not the centre of the freelancing universe, but I beg to differ, actually, because there's people that have moved out of 90 Maynard down to Peckham.
I could be wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong on this one.
It's the new gold rush. So since I really have done this, I didn't realise I had, but I have done this because I've been working on a marketing plan. So we've done the situation and objectives and strategy.
Right, so how did you find that exercise? If you've been doing it, was it useful?
So, after 5 years of listening to it, Marjorie, it's so ingrained in me. It's like my training just kicks in. You're
like a karate master for marketing planning, aren't you?
Well, one of the things was because like a Work Hubs here, which is Phil wants to sell more desks, so that's where the revenue is. But the objective isn't to sell a desk; it's to build a community. So that then led us off to think about how we're actually starting conversations, because we could pound the internet with Google AdWords like desk space in Euston, knock down prices, buy 3 get 6 too. But and that would be an objective, and it would fulfil the thing. Fulfill the...
Yes, what you've described there is a tactic rather than an objective. The objective is to fill the space and build a community, and the tactics then is, one of them could be AdWords, but you've obviously decided that's not the right way to go.
So why something when I was listening back to the podcast, very quickly we jumped to, maybe I do, I don't want to accuse you of it too, very quickly we jumped to tactics, and it's hard to go through the whole process without I'm doing this. Is that why? Do you know why that is?
Yes, because we were, I guess, having quite a wide-ranging conversation. But if you sit down with a piece of paper and go through each step in a fairly methodical way, then it's quite logical. You start off by looking at where are we now, then we go to where do we want to get to. So that's our situation, where are we now? Where do we want to get to? That's our objectives. And our strategy is, well, how are we going to go about doing that? So Phil's objectives, or your objectives for Work Hubs, is to fill all the desks with paying freelancers. And your strategy is to build community to actually achieve that. So then your tactics is, what do we actually do to start building that community? And one of the things that I think you're doing to build that community is your breakfast meetings, your co-working space and all that good stuff.
Yep.
Right, so they're your marketing tactics.
Should we just flow with tactics?
Should we jump straight into that then? So, tactics we've talked about there. Let's look at those. Well, I guess let's look at a fairly generic tactic structure that you might use here or for any small business, really. And
Andy and Bernie's co-working space, because then I can pretend we talked about it here, and then I can go and tell Phil, who's sitting outside, I've had this idea, and he doesn't listen to this shit. So,
wait, you're not going to charge Phil a consultancy fee for this, are you?
Absolutely.
Good for you, mate. Good for you, and I will happily take a commission on that payment.
That wasn't an agreement, mate.
Okay, so. How do you build it? So your strategy for this co-working space, for Bernie and Andy's co-working space, is we want to build community. So what tactics can we employ to actually build that community? So let's use one example. I want to build a breakfast meeting club once a week on, let's say Thursday mornings. How does that sound?
That's
Andy?
a great idea.
And the idea is everyone brings something to the breakfast that they want to share.
Yeah.
And then during the breakfast, we have a bit more of a discussion around who's who and what problem they're trying to solve this week to help them move their business forward.
Yep. That sounds
so
scaringly familiar.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? So how are we then going to get people to come along to that session in the first place? Well, let's say we're going to start to do some classic inbound marketing stuff to generate interest.
Because inbound marketing classic now? Is that how old we are?
I think inbound marketing is just a rubbish word for marketing we've been doing for years. Because there's nothing new about producing content or stuff that's of interest to our target audience to get them to learn more about your business and how you can help them solve their problems. So let's say we set up, as part of that, a website. And on our website, we decide what's going to help our community to learn about the value of co-working and why they should come to our co-working space. I've got an idea. Let's create a podcast. Whoa, hello, there we go. So we record a weekly podcast. And on that podcast, we talk about things of value to our audience. So let's say part of it might be project management, part of the subject might be getting things done, part of it might be the tools and techniques and technologies or the apps, Bernie, that you love that we could use to help us with our freelance business.
There's always an app.
Yeah. So we record our podcast and we put that out through, I don't know, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spreaker. And then off the back of that, we create a blog post. And then we create maybe some slides. And we create other interesting bits of information that we then share out through our social media footprint. So we share all those on our blog, then through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever we've got an audience. And we call that our content distribution strategy. Where are we going to put our content where our target audience might find it?
So this pops up a lot. There's a really good book, which I'll link to in the show notes, called Content Rules by Anne Handley and the other guy.
I don't know his name, but I do know the book.
Yeah, which is really, really good. It's one of the things. It's a cornerstone piece of content marketing literature.
It's a few years old now, isn't it? But if you read it, a lot of the principles are still of value. It still tells you about the different techniques you might employ to produce value-adding content.
So I wondered if you could riff a bit on repurposing content, because people, and I still do this even though I've read the book several times, is go, I've got to produce 17 different things. I've got, well, you can make, I think the term is make one asset sweat more.
Oh, we're sweating the assets, or we're leveraging the assets.
Leveraging the
nasty, horrible terms that we can borrow from the world of finance and corporate marketing. But in other words, the time it takes you and I to record this podcast can be utilised if we stretch what we've recorded here into lots of different pieces of content. Stuff.
God, so it's so hard to make a marketing podcast without
talking about making your toes curl with all the acronyms and the BS. Yeah, I agree. But it's, we're investing time in this, so we want to make sure the time we're investing is used as effectively as we can. So the podcast can easily be transcribed into a Q&A blog post. And that can easily be chopped up into smaller blog posts and then even tweets. So you've done all the hard work in recording the podcast. Just make sure that you use it all as effectively as you can for not much more money. Okay, so then we've got the the actual content we're pushing out through our social media, and that's driving traffic to our website. But what's the big thing about inbound or content marketing that nobody ever tells you?
They haven't told me, so
I'll tell you, it takes ages. It's not. I don't produce a podcast.
I was actually going to say that, and I thought that's too obvious, isn't it?
It's not. It doesn't. You're not going to produce this podcast, and tomorrow the phone's going to be off the hook with, I want to come to your community co-working space. It's not going to happen.
So how long has it taken? Is this one of the, because you must have had it in your business, and we both know lots of PR people where, I remember I've had more than one conversation where someone's done PR for 3 months and then stopped it because they're not getting anything out of it, and then 10 minutes later Drew Barrymore arrives wearing a t-shirt of their product on.
It's classic. I think content marketing is a commitment, not a campaign. I think it was John Buskell.
It is.
Is that John?
It is John Buskell.
I like John is a very smart guy, and I love what he puts out on his podcast. But it's a commitment, not a campaign. You've got to think about it in the long term. But at the same time, you do, as a business, need to get short-term results, right? So what can we do with that content once it's on our website to help bring people into our sales funnel to get people talking to us?
We referred to the pipeline in episode 83 before.
Okay.
Which about the sales pipeline. So go on, talk
The
about
buying
that.
journey.
Yeah.
So we want to get people talking to us sooner rather than later. So why don't we just be very tactical and run some paid search advertising or social media advertising with Facebook? So AdWords or Bing ads or Facebook ads, Twitter ads. These things you can turn on straight away as a way to start driving interest in the content that you've created, get people onto your website, get them into a conversation with your business.
There's in between this one and another one, there's a podcast with Jordan about, I quite blatantly called it "Stop Pissing About with Your Website and Facebook and Start Making Money" or something like that.
I think I listened to it, and he sounds like a really smart guy as well.
He goes into a lot of detail there, but can you sort of scratch on what?
Okay, so let's look at AdWords for a start. So if someone is searching for co-working space London, for example, or even a longer search, I'm looking for a community co-working space in London, you can create adverts that will just be shown when somebody puts that search term into their Google search query box. Mm-hmm. So if you come along, Bernie, and Google community co-working space in London, hit search, our advert for Bernie and his co-working space will appear in the search results at the top 3 positions. And if someone clicks on that ad, we are then charged a fee for that advert. So it's pay per click advertising.
How did they work out how much that is? Because I know a little bit about this, but I've never been able to explain it with any sense of authority.
It's an auction.
Yeah.
And there are various things that go into what makes the price. One of which is the demand for that keyword. Another one is how much are others prepared to pay for the keyword. And another one is what's called quality score, and that's how good your advert and landing page are, how relevant they are to the search query. And all of those things go together to making the cost of a click. And let's say we get 100 clicks on our advert, we might pay £100, for example, but they are people looking for our solution. So in theory, there should be, qualified prospective customers. They're actually looking for what we're selling.
What's your experience of does it depend on the product or the service, depending on how well that does? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I've never used AdWords or even tried to market a co-working space. So there might be folks out there who've been marketing co-working spaces saying, what is this guy talking about? But the principles are there. You can do this for any business, really. Just got to test and tweak and optimize your tactic mix.
Yeah. I would expect that if you have all your content in place, when you do your AdWords and people arrive at your site, your chances of converting or acquisition are higher than if they just go to a site where you last blogged in 2011 and...
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. If you're producing content that's of value and interest to your target audience and your paid search advert gets them onto your site and they get there and there's a blog post about how to be productive in my community co-working space, and that's a challenge that all freelancers are struggling with, is how do I stay focused, get work done and not work all the hours under the sun whilst I've got work and none while I haven't got any. That kind of content's of interest and of value to your target audience. So why would they not stick around and read that? Why would they not engage with your website?
And what could we do when we paid for our ad? They come to our website. They're hanging around. Where do they go then? Where would I want to take them next?
So classic is to define that buying journey. So if you run an AdWords campaign, you might bring them into a landing page, and the landing page might ask them to fill in a form.
Obviously, I know.
A landing page.
What's a landing page?
A landing page. It's a very specific one page of your website that's related to that search query. So if we're searching for London community co-working space, they click on the ad, they'll go to a page that is all about how this is a community-focused co-working space in London. And so you'll get them to read a bit of blurb, and then you might have a call to action there, which might be a form that says, fill in our form, get in touch, and we'll give you some free advice on how to build community or how to engage in a community for your freelance business.
And can you how do you get people to fill in the form? Is there like get a free chocolate, download our...
Give them something of value. Yeah, I mean, there's so much. If you want some tips on how to build good landing pages, just Google it. There are so many great resources for that sort of stuff. Have a look at the Unbounce blog. Unbounce is a really nice
That's
site.
a great one to link in the show notes, kids.
Unbounce is an independent platform for non-techie people to build landing pages.
Yep.
Really easy to use. But once they're filled in your form, you don't want them to go away. You might have their contact details, and you'll have probably organised for them to get an auto-response email that says, thanks for signing up, here's what you asked for. But you also want to steer them deeper into the site. So maybe on that form, once they're filled in the form, hit submit, then you link them through to a blog post that's very relevant, or you link them through to a video or a podcast or something else that's going to show them that you've got some value for them and that they should be interested in your co-working. Sorry, our co-working space.
It's always like that, Andy, you know. Your tech map, your bloggers meetup.
Oh, Bernie, you're going to throw that at me.
I've waited years. So our friend Marcus Sheridan is...
classic. Sales line.
Really, I'll link to him. His river pool story says a plastic swimming pool company, which is really, really unexciting. But last time I checked, a few months ago I was listening to a podcast, and he used to know that it would take people, pardon the long pauses here, it would take people who would read 30 pages of his website and then buy a swimming pool. Okay, and now that's gone up, and less people go for the ebook and the download, and more people spend more time reading the content. And he suggests that that's because it's easier to do stuff on a mobile phone now. Because people used to like download the ebook on plastic swimming pools.
I think, Marcus Sheridan's been talking about this approach to marketing for 6, 7, 8 years, maybe more, I don't know.
2011. It was just before, I discovered him just before making social part of your DNA.
Is that right? Okay, which is 2012.
He was on Mitch Joel's podcast.
So remember then in 2011 this was quite new, but now there's so much content being pushed out by everybody that it's much harder to generate a return, but it's still valuable. It's still going to help you. What the content does is it shows you you're relevant to this market space, but it also helps you with organic search traffic. So people are searching and not paying for your advert, but just get to you because your page has been ranked highly by the search engines.
While we're hanging in this area is we have here at Work Hubs, we've been doing an email, and it's just something I've been playing around with varying degrees of success, and I just went with my own email. I went to doing it every week, so lots of people unsubscribe. I put like 20 people unsubscribe, which is people who I worked with 7 years ago, and like Michelle is a housewife in Australia now and doesn't work in the event industry, so Bernie's content on blockchain is not gonna wake her up. So it made sense.
Yeah.
But also, a group of people have become even more highly engaged, which is what I want. So then we did that here at Work Hubs, and as part of the research around that, I got fancy hands to sign me up to 25 co-working spaces to sign up for their newsletter, and over 3 months, only one place has consistently sent out a newsletter.
Really?
Yeah.
Their opportunity knocks right there. Then they're missing a trick, perhaps.
So. Which made me feel like incredibly smug, because it's not very often. I suppose every 7 years something like that happens. But what do you think about email if we're still in the right section of our...
Yeah, email is another tactic. So you might say we've got the website, we've got the content, we're now driving traffic with paid search, and now we're getting people who are signing up for our ebook, whatever that might be, and perhaps they're signing up for our email list as well. And perhaps that's one of the calls to action on our landing page is sign up for our email where we share productivity tips for freelancers. And so once a week you put out an email that has something really great around productivity for freelancers.
Yeah.
It might be a review of an app, it might be a review of a getting things done system, it might be a review of a mentoring scheme, or anything that's of value to your audience could go out on email once a week.
Well,
so there's your tactic mix right there.
With your talking about long term, it's just popped in my head. So with your architect client, is there something you've done over the years that's like really been a long game?
Certainly this approach.
Yep.
Yeah, we put out quite a lot of content that's blogs or ebooks. That certainly generates interest and we get a number of inquiries.
And they're quite a high tech, like building a house is very different from renting a desk, isn't it?
Yeah, the expense is a bit different. It's a different level of investment, but people are still interested in understanding the approach and the style of the architect's practice. You know, can they relate to these people? Can they are they explaining clearly how they're going to work with me, so I get a sense of security that my £200,000 investment in my extension is actually going to be invested with the right people.
Mm-hmm. Where are we now?
So we're still in tactics, but I think we've probably spoken about tactics for long enough. So let's just sum up the tactic mix. We've got a website. We've decided that's going to be a focal point for attracting interest. On that, we're putting content that's a podcasts and blogs and other valuable content that we produce. So we're sweating the assets. Sorry, Bernie. Yes.
I introduced that wanky phrase. So
yes, yeah, okay. I'm happy to blame that one on you. So we're sweating the assets. We're also running some paid search advertising on AdWords and Bing ads to drive traffic in the short term. And what we're getting them all to do is to sign up to receive an ebook or to receive our weekly email with productivity tips for freelancers. So that's our tactic mix. So now we get down to the action and the control. And the action is who is going to do all this stuff. There's a good chance that you I'm saying you again, Bernie.
Yeah.
We are not good at all of this stuff. We can have a chat about this kind of stuff on a podcast and record it and put it out as some audio, but perhaps neither of us can write very well. So maybe what we're going to do is we're going to outsource the writing of blog posts to somebody. And you and I, maybe we're really, really good at ideas, but you know what? When it comes to using email marketing, perhaps we're rubbish at MailChimp or Campaign Monitor, whichever one we use. So we're going to find in a system that can do that stuff for us. So we can focus on what we do really, really well, which is building community and getting people excited around the ideas we have around making freelancers productive.
Dun, dun, dun.
But there's a bunch of stuff in there that we can do as well. So the action is about deciding who is going to do what. And it's very tempting as a small company to say, I'm going to do it all because it will save me money. I won't have to pay someone to do my email marketing. I won't have to pay someone to do my copywriting. But guess what, Bernie, I hate to say it, you are not good at everything.
I found that out the hard way.
And neither am I, and nobody else is. So finding people to help you to deliver that tactic mix is really, really useful and a good way of making sure that you are focused on your strengths, and where you're not so strong, you get someone that's really good at that.
So how can you go about finding those people? Because that is
the gig economy.
Yeah, the gig economy.
We were just talking about that. See, there's a whole industry of freelancers who, by the way, we're trying to get into our community, who might also be happy to provide some of those services for us. And there are tons of websites you can go to online. I won't mention any because there's loads of them.
This is an I think this is worth spending some time on in another podcast, because the agony of like how to find someone, where to find it, and as people I always say people, but you know, I've gone to assistant sites and freelancer sites and gone, oh, do all that for me, and actually you have to know what you're doing when you get there, and then hiring someone like Klaxon or Moondog, which is Andy and John, you know, arriving at them and going, I need to sell more stuff. hang on, and then you get into this conversation.
Take a step back,
because a lot of people just find it really hard to work out what they actually want to do, and what they feel comfortable lining up the sales and marketing thing, and what the voice is and the brand and
deep breath. I'm taking a deep breath because that's a whole different and enormous conversation. I don't know whether I'm qualified to talk to you, but why don't we make that the next podcast is all about how do we find the right team.
We can call up Mitch Joel.
Let's call up Mitch. He's definitely qualified. Or maybe even call up John as well. John's qualified.
That'd be good.
Yeah, let's get those two.
What we could do is
do that.
Let's get John in. Right, we can find out what we're going to do for our business. Get John in, and then he can do it. And that's only cost us half an hour of podcasting time. And that guy's £500 a minute.
Okay, so how do we know if our tactics are right and it's being done correctly and our action is happening? And that's the control. It's what are we looking for that's going to tell us whether this is working. So if we look at a tactical level, what are the things we can look for to see if our website is working in terms of generating the response that we're looking for? So our objective is to rent out desks. Our strategy is community. So we want our website to have those two things built in there. We want people to be making inquiries, and we want people to be participating, engaging in the website. So maybe two of the metrics we can look at there is, are we seeing an increase in the traffic to the website? Are we seeing an increase in the amount of time people spend on the website? Are we seeing an increase in the number of different pages people go to on the website? And crucially, are we seeing an increase in the number of inquiries and subscriptions to our ebooks?
And where do we go and look for all that stuff?
You can do all of that stuff in the lovely Google Analytics. Lots of other platforms available, but Analytics, Google Analytics is freely available, readily available, regularly updated by Google, and very, very powerful for any small business, particularly for our co-working space, Bernie.
And you just plug that into your website?
You put a little piece of JavaScript on your website, which is tracking code. So when anyone goes onto our site, then Google starts to track what they're doing on our site, and then we can set up conversions and goals, or goals then conversions, so we can see whether people are doing what we want them to do.
You've turned into Avanash.
I wish I was as smart as Avanash. Let's get him on this show.
I can make a call, you know.
Can you call Avanash? I like Avanash. He's a smart cookie. But yes, so let's set it up so that it's showing us whether we're achieving our objectives around the website. I'm going
to just link to Avanash's website in the show notes, because he writes a blog, and he only writes it once a month now, but it is...
Yeah, but each post probably 1,000 words or 2,000 words.
It's something I've been learning slowly for, and it's definitely not my skill set, but it's well worth...
He's got some great books as well. I think Analytics an Hour a Day was his first one, and then another one that I forget what it's called now, but it's well worth looking at. Avanish Kaushik. Okay, so measures then for social media. Not really do we care about follower growth. No. It doesn't matter whether you've got 100 or 10,000 followers on Twitter. What's more important is, are they engaging with your content? Are they sharing your content? And are they coming to your website from social media? That's what I care about. And also I want to know whether they're speaking about my brand or my business or my services favourably or not. Get a sense for whether people are happy with what you're delivering for them. So when people come to Bernie Andy's co-working space in Peckham, are they leaving and going, wow, a really great productive session at the co-working space this morning? Or are they leaving going, God, the co-working spaces are rubbish. It's always cold there and the toilets don't flush and you can never get a cup of tea.
Yep.
These are the things you can start to monitor and see whether that tactic's working for you. Pay-per-click, really, really easy to measure whether that's working. You set up conversions and analytics and you see whether the clicks you're getting from AdWords or paid search are actually converting into inquiries. Simple as that.
What do you... So how long would you look at that for and then decide what to do? Because going back to what we were saying earlier, it was like, I've spent 300 quid on AdWords and...
Seriously, with AdWords, I would suggest a minimum of 3 months to test out whether something's working. Ideally, 6 months to get some data, because what you'll do is the first month you'll set it up and you'll get to the end of the first month and you'll see where there are opportunities to improve those campaigns. So, for example, I'm running a campaign for an interior design firm right now, and we set the campaign up 2 weeks ago, so I looked at 2 weeks worth of data yesterday, and I noticed that some people are searching for, clicking on our ads when they're searching for luxury yacht interior design. And we don't offer, or the client doesn't offer yacht design, so now I need to filter that keyword out of the search terms to make sure we aren't paying for those clicks. So whilst at the top level it looked like the campaign was doing really, really well and we're getting loads of clicks, some of the search queries were not quite targeted enough. And you can't know that in the first day.
You can't go back to Google and say, I don't make yachts, it's not fair.
You can't go back and say, I want that £50 worth of clicks back, please, thank you very much. Because I'll just say, well, you set the campaign up.
So do you know about, I keep on getting these like vouchers from Google saying your first £50 worth of whatever it is free.
They'll That's just to entice you into start using it. If you haven't had a Google AdWords account before, you get 50 quid, sometimes more actually. I've seen 120 quid recently, free advertising. You still have to go and set the account up, and you still have to optimize it, but you will get £120 worth of clicks for free.
And that can be your burn money, and then you can...
Yeah, I mean, I think realistically, with £120, depending on what your keywords are, I mean, for us, I don't know how competitive co-working space keywords are, but I'd imagine we'd burn through £120 quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't assume that AdWords is going to be a cheap way to get traffic onto your site. It's a way to get it going quickly.
WorkHub ranks really well because it's quite an old co-working space now, and so there's always like WeWork and Central Working, I think it is, and Regis, and then if you Google co-working spaces in London, and then in the unpaid bit, just underneath, is WorkHubs.
Oh, right, that's good. The organic listings, the unpaid.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's very, very good.
And is that dependent on the URL or on the site? How much is that?
Is what dependent?
Like how you rank? If you changed, if you updated Claxton's website, moved it from wherever it is to Woo themes and redesigned it, would that affect your ranking in the search engines or?
Wow. Okay. Big question. But yes, probably. I mean, that's all search engine optimization. That's podcast number 5. Sorry, I'm skipping one. 4. We'll do search engine optimization.
SEO. Yep.
Yeah. Because that's all about getting your site right to attract to the eyes of Google, Bing, and the other search engines to send traffic your way without paying for it. But yes, if you change your site, probably will have an impact on your search results.
There we go. There's so we need to wrap up there. Are
we over the time limit? Oh, we're just getting going.
I know. I'm
in my prime, Bernie.
I'm holding back here. So where should we go from here? We've
done actions. We've done control. So the control is all about measuring whether what you're doing is working and helping you to achieve your objectives. So let's close off then. So what do we need to do next? So when we start to measure things, invariably some things will work and some things won't work. Mm-hmm. And you won't know until you test them out whether what is working and what isn't working. And so with marketing, it's not about, I'm going to spend £500 and that's all I've got for marketing and we're going to do AdWords. Think about that in a slightly longer term. I'm going to invest £5,000 over the next 12 months and we're going to adjust my campaign every quarter to make sure that we keep the things that we're doing well that are helping us reach our objectives, and we change the things that aren't doing so well. So it might be this campaign we've just defined here runs for a quarter, and then we look at it and we say, actually, you know what? All that effort we're putting into podcasting, and we haven't got a single follower or subscriber, or no one's actually come from the podcast to download our ebook or sign up for our email newsletter, but people are reading our blog posts. Mm-hmm. So maybe at that point we say, you know what, let's ditch the podcast, so let's focus on producing really good blogs. I know, sorry, Bernie. Yep. There's a tear rolling down his cheek over here. It's quite sad to see. But at the same time, we might look at the AdWords campaign and see, okay, the campaign we've got for desk space is working, but the advert we've got for co-working space isn't working. So we'll take the money we had for the one that isn't working, put it into one that is.
Yep.
And we'll change it. And then 3 months down the line, you'll look at it again and say, okay, we can refine this. Keep refining it until you get to a point where your tactic mix is working really, really well to deliver against your objectives.
Gorgeous.
Simple as that.
We're going to run off now and make loads of show notes because there's a lot of good stuff there. And these are people we know and people we've been reading for ages, so I really recommend you dive in. And if you have any questions, it's at Andy Bardry on Twitter.
Yep.
Or at me on Bernie J. Mitchell on Twitter, and we'll be back next month for. Should we do the action thing?
Let's do the action, then let's do search engine optimization after that. Okay. Why not?
And we're taking requests. Thanks very much for your time today, and be careful out there. It is a jungle.
Bye for now.
Please go to berniejmitchell.com/podcast. Bernie would love your feedback.